Are we live? Doing my little dance as HGTV is on in the background. Can anyone hear HGTV? All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 4th episode of the 2nd season of Second Sons. As always, I'm Roy Rogers.
Confusing.
I have no idea. Yes, of course it was confusing, Aaron. As always, I'm Roy Rogers, your less than friendly host, formerly of the New York City Meta, currently of my apartment Meta, which has HGTV on in the background. Let's see. With me today is Aaron Glazer, who will not get a chance to introduce himself.
Yes, he will. Because hang on,
Quiet Glazer.
because Will wouldn't allow you to have HGTV on in the background. He would not stand for that shit.
This is my
Will
show, not Will's
Sons,
show,
man.
so I get to do what I want.
Respect the
All
shit
right.
podcast.
All right. Sid, how are you doing this on the eve of your return to full-time employment?
I'm feeling the first throes of the malaise that comes with knowing my beard will soon be shorn. So I'm starting like that. That depressive state is starting to set in. Like it's just starting to kind of fall upon me. I would have shaved my beard for tonight because Aaron Glazer did win the bet. I think it was 2 episodes ago we made the bet about whether or not Spoiler.
All right.
I waited long enough.
Wait, we do spoiler warnings on this show? Since when do we?
No, whether or not
The
the
show.
Hound would not a face-off. We settled on a meet, and technically he did meet Gregor. He looked at him and said some words, and Gregor didn't seem to recognize him. But we bet my beard. Well, we bet beards on the meeting, so I am going to shave my beard. I didn't do it tonight because I do have my first day of class tomorrow. So I need to have my intimidating face on, which includes the beard. So I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do it. I don't have my confidence if I don't have my beard day one. So sometime in the very near future, next few shows, I'll shave. We'll make sure that Aaron is there to gloat and everyone there to see me.
How this ends up is we do another Second Sons in like 6 months, and because Sid can't teach without his beard, he's like homeless. His wife has left him. He's just sitting there like haggard, like I had to
His children mock him.
Webcam.
Joke's on you guys. I'm like an Adonis without the beard, all right? I put this on just so that I fit in with y'all, okay? That's how it really is. That's how it really is.
I am completely miserable, Oxnard.
And that voice right there is the champion of my heart, Chris Schoenthal. How you doing, Chris?
Hanging in there. I had to switch to energy drink tonight. I had kind of a long day, so kid went back to school today. So
congratulations to her.
Now, sure.
The photos made her look very adorable. And then we have our very special guest filling in for Buzz, who is doing the technical side because he's a generous Swede. They believe in socialism. They believe in sharing. Gotta love the Swedes. But to fill in for Buzz on the content level is everyone's favorite guest who isn't Seth Lowe, international man of mystery, and my mealy nemesis, Sandy Barnabas. How are you doing, Sandy?
I'm pretty good. I didn't realize I was going to be on today, but that's fine.
That's how we do things in the Second Sons. Last minute guests, terrible content. Here we go.
You have to be ready for the call to adventure at any time.
I don't think we have any news except for that whole big tournament that happened in North America.
Wait, the news is there is no news.
Wait,
there is no news.
There's
3 of us
absolutely
attended.
news. Wait,
So-
no, there's real news.
What's the real news? The show's over until 2019?
Oh, no one cares about the show.
Hard
Although,
news.
hang on, important question. Did you hate the second to last episode or the last episode more?
Second to last.
Yeah,
Second
second to
to
last
last
was
easily.
terrible, right? Okay.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
a bad D&D campaign. Like, seriously. It's like, oh, the DM's railroading us. We got to go catch this thing from the north. Like, what the hell?
Visually very cool. On a plotting level, pretty bad. So,
All right. Glad we all agreed, because that's the last time we're all going to agree tonight. But the news is, do we know when Worlds is yet? Or, sorry, when Thrones is happening at Worlds?
or
No.
L5, or literally anything at Worlds.
Nope.
And considering that today I found out that they changed my vacation policy at my job, knowing when Worlds is would be really nice so that I can use my now more limited vacation time and figure that out.
So-
Aaron, can you clarify how that's news?
I mean, the complete lack of news this close is unprecedented.
I
That's
was gonna
noteworthy.
say,
If not newsworthy, at least noteworthy.
Yeah, the lack of news is news, but
FFG is really shitting the bed, if you'll pardon my vernacular. But like, I was just talking to a fellow world traveler, a foxy world traveler, about Worlds, and like, he's like, yeah, I don't know that we can actually book tickets in time because like nobody knows when to come, and like transatlantic flights, you can't just do them at the drop of a hat. Like, you kind of have to plan them in advance. And I don't know, is this a plot by FFG to make sure an American wins Worlds? I don't know.
I don't know.
Is this to keep Tomas from coming?
Plot kind of like connotes planning, though, so I doubt it.
Yeah. It's
like
step
the
59
plot.
in FFG's plan to not make money. How do we ensure that we don't make money? Let's not announce it. No one will ever guess.
Are we jumping in? Is this our first topic? Or are we just going for it?
Yeah, we can just go for it and just completely and totally tear FFG about Worlds, which I think was going to be the lead-in coming out of Gen Con. But we can start with the ending and end with the beginning.
Share your outlines, Roy.
Okay, so I had this whole thing that I was going to congratulate Alex Black because Gen Con was filled with so much shit that his win has kind of been overshadowed. Like, we had mild drama last year at Gen Con, but I feel like we had this good feeling when Chris won, and that's mostly what we're talking about, and Seth refusing to be recorded. That was the fun kind of drama, right? The kind of drama that we mock the people we care about. Chris did really well. It was great. We were all feeling kind of – it's terrible as the meta was way worse than it is now, but the sort of culture around the game was in a much better place. Gen Con this year was the opposite. So I do, even though we're a negative podcast, we talk a lot of shit here, I really want to give Alex credit. He and the Toronto guys really prepped very well. They took a real risk with Martel Stag. Like if they had if they had done what our team thought was going to happen, which is run into Greyjoy after Greyjoy after Greyjoy, they would have been kind of fuckers. They would have been kind of fucked. But they rolled the dice and they won and they did exactly what they should have done. And I'm really happy for Alex and the Toronto guys. And
I'm really happy you won this tournament. That was total shit. You are the winner of shit. That is such a nice congratulations, Roy.
I'm not.
You get the card design.
No, like
it's a card
really,
design. Like
Alex,
I'm really like I'm not being sarcastic.
Okay,
like, I'm just.
Let's be real though. Regardless of the tournament being run like, I don't know, amateur hour, like there was some serious players in the field. It's not like he didn't beat great players. Like it's a legitimate win, obviously.
And the drama wasn't really directly connected to him or any of his wins. No. Like I feel like he made kind of a beeline around a lot of the drama, and that's good. It's good that our champion is.
That's
I don't think he's.
I want to make clear where this is coming from, which is I listened to the White Book today on my commute, and poor Alex was on there to like do his little victory lap. But Alex himself, Kyle, and Will were all so downtrodden after what happened. That the just tone of that episode, and the White Book is normally extremely optimistic. They Will tries really hard to spin shit into gold, but he just couldn't this time because of course like wings got fucked, and we'll get to there. But I just really want to take this time in a podcast that's naturally more negative to try to start with something positive, which is congratulations, Alex. You're a nice guy. You played well. You are for this year the best player in North America and well deserved.
Absolutely.
Also, it stays in the West Coast.
Yeah, it does. That's true. West Coast, best coast in Thrones. 2 years in a row in North America. So
I mean, isn't Europe the best coast? Does Europe count as a coast?
I don't know. The world champion is currently an East Coaster, so for better or for worse.
I totally forgot about that. You ruined my night.
I totally forgot.
Sorry.
It's beautiful.
So, okay, why don't we talk a little bit about the meta? We have 3 of us that were there and 1 person who prepped a lot and thought a lot about the Gen Con meta here. So we have sort of 3.5 people who have a lot of Gen Con
experience. Thought a lot about the Gen Con meta?
Yes. So we'll start with Chris because sort of Sandy, Aaron, and I all have sort of the same read. Chris, what did you guys think about the meta going into Gen Con, and why did you bring Targ?
I mean, I think it felt to us a little bit rock, paper, scissory, as I'm sure most groups figured. I figured there would be a good amount of Night's Watch, but then I assumed as well as apparently everybody but Aaron did that the Greyjoy decks would kind of prey on the Night's Watch decks.
Yeah,
and I would be free to beat the Greyjoy decks with my Targ deck. Although I was 1-1 against Greyjoy decks and 2-0 against wall decks. So maybe it was just the opposite of the cycle.
Okay, so Glazer, what was New York City's / Canada / Luke Wortley /
the Northeast group, the Northeast group that stopped being Northeast. I don't know. Like, we thought we had three really good decks. We definitely had 3 really good decks, but the one that I personally thought Dom decks were going to be the easiest way to like just get easy wins and crush noobs, and then if enough of those make it into the cut and you're in a group, then you have a good shot of winning. Which, crazy how that worked. But mine was a Night's Watch stag, and like 2 people played it, and variance bit, and that's why you need a group to play a deck like that. The other decks were, well, Roy played it, and he's going to have to brag because now Roy's one of the best players in North America, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to live in that fucking world. And Targ Fealty, which was really just a pack away. I feel like both the Night's Watch tag and the Targ Fealty just get amazingly better with this next pack. But like, hey, thanks for letting us know when things were coming out, as always, FFG.
Classic.
Yeah, well, so sort of the third deck was the Night's Watch Reigns deck that Dark Naj, Dan Struhall, and myself and a couple other New York City guys brought. Most of the 6 of us that brought it, 5 of us finished 3-2 or better. Poor Andrew got the tail end of the variance and sort of ran into all of the bad matchups that most of us dodged. I only ran into the horrible Martell Stag once and lost. It was a good game, actually, to Kevin Austin, right? I think from Toronto. So we thought that the Night's Watch Reigns would basically beat anything but stall and like hyper degenerate stall, like what won Gen Con. And we thought that most people wouldn't bring degenerate stall because of the Greyjoy meta, which that part of our read ended up a little incorrect. But I was really, really happy with the deck. I really wanted to play a wall deck because despite my nice guy persona, when it comes to how I play the game, I like playing degenerate cards that let me sit back and say my favorite word in the world, past challenges.
That's 2 words.
Phrase, excuse me. So I was really happy when Dark Naj came up with his version of Reigns that he and Dan then refined down. And yeah, the deck was really well. It beat everything I wanted it to beat. Like I should have been, for the first time in my life, 2-0 against Lanny Reigns, but I got screwed by a bad judge call that cost me the game, despite, which is very frustrating because I made the right plot read and I played that round perfectly. And I knew the rules, and I should have called Nate over, but I was too tilted when he told me that I was wrong, that I was just so like...
about the meta, not about why Gen Con was badly run.
Yeah, there we go. We'll get there. Sorry, I apologize, but it's so annoying because it beat Lanny Reigns, it beat all of the it beat Targ Fealty in our testing, which was the other deck we almost brought. So I feel like, and Dan Struhall said this, that we had the second best deck, I think, actually there after the Martell Stag, and Dan and I both ran into some pretty bad variants in the cut. Like I didn't see the wall in either of the cut games. What?
The chat would like to know what the bad ruling was.
We'll get there. Because I was told to just talk a little bit more about the meta. So I think actually the meta was pretty diverse, even if it was a little frustratingly.
The meta was not diverse.
Rock, paper, scissors.
There were 4 decks.
I mean, what in the cut? There was a bunch of stuff in the cut. There was Reigns, Lanny Reigns, Night's Watch Reigns. Are we talking about top 32 or this top 16? There was, yeah. I mean, the top 16 was pretty dominated by
the other cut.
The other cut. Which cut? I think it was relatively diverse. It was Greyjoy, Lannister, Night's Watch, Martell, and Targ, because Tom did a really really solid climb with the SoCal deck. So I don't know. It seems relatively diverse, much better than Gen Con last year. So I don't know. All right, Sid, as an observer, what do you think? Looking at sort of how
I was there. Do I not get to talk?
I would have. My observation is I would have won if I was there. I would have been.
And you could blame. Hold on one second.
No
you could blame Jim PD.
No, but here's what did happen is when we did our pre-Gen Con show and you went around, you're like, what were you gonna play? What would you play? And I was like, I'm not going. But if I was going, I would play Greyjoy, because Greyjoy, now's the time, because location decks, degenerate location decks are everywhere, and that's what I would play. And damn it.
So
It all
wait,
played out. And I was like, that was the right call.
wait, seriously though, the whole reason I knew there wouldn't be a ton of Greyjoy, like there would have had to have been
Just
a
'cause they
little
listen to
Greyjoy that no, there would have to have been a little Greyjoy that does really, really well. I feel like in North America, there's like, at least since I've been playing, like even when the stupid first edition Maidensbane decks were like winning shit, like
Yeah.
at the big tournaments, those decks just weren't everywhere. Like Greyjoy was never really like when Greyjoy Maesters was great, like it wasn't everywhere in North America. Greyjoy gets played like fucking crazy in Europe, but in North America, it's a smaller cohort that plays it every single time, and no one ever listens to that. And then like we'll be in the same place next gen coming. It's like Greyjoy's so well positioned, and no one will.
Hey, Aaron, I have an idea. How about you show up to a major tournament and then you can say I told you so? Sound like a plan?
I was busy in Colombia. Sorry, much
Whatever.
more.
Actually, Aaron
still-
actually for the first time in 2.0 had a good excuse for not being at this major tournament. So I think this is the time we can't give him shit.
Whatever.
All
I
right,
wanna
Sandy,
know my Gen
what
Con
was your take?
experience.
Your Gen Con experience, the meta, but you can
The
you can
meta.
kick off the
Remember.
experience too.
Well, I was really drunk for a lot of it.
Shocking.
we can talk about the melee at some other point, but I think
About it.
I played a European deck, and I think had I been, I don't know, slightly better at this game or slightly faster, I would have made it to the cut. And I think I had a really good shot against all of those decks. I still think I would take my Night's Watch fealty, my quote unquote Tomas's Night's Watch fealty over Night's Watch Reigns, over the Targ, over Lanny Reigns. I had 2 losses in Swiss. One was a time loss to Patrick Reynolds, Lanny Reigns, which I think everyone observing the game.
Patrick Reynolds is the slowest player in history.
So
I mean,
Patrick
I-
slow played you, so yeah.
It's fine. It wasn't like it. I should have played faster too.
Oh
But,
no, he
had
doesn't
not
do it
had
on
the
purpose, but
trickery
he
and
does.
at the end, it would have gone down to cards and whatever. And I had the game on lockdown. I think going forward. And the other loss I had was to an amazing Night's Watch stag deck with the white tree, where I got 0 gold round 1 because I was choked that well.
Wow.
It's like I can do nothing here. Like that was fine. But yeah, I think the same deck, the same weekend, maybe not the same weekend, went like 8-0 in London. So it's clearly player error on my part. I do think that your meta calls are all relatively correct. I did think we'd see more Greyjoy, but broadly speaking, it seemed like everyone was like one step ahead of that. Like people were playing things to beat Greyjoy. I don't know that like Lanny Reigns doesn't give a shit about Greyjoy, so people were playing that. I didn't see that many Targ at all. The only Targ player I faced was David Moran, who I am his
Playing our
nemesis.
deck. Yeah.
But yeah, I played like 3 Lanny Reigns decks. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think. The thing was though, the guy who won the tournament though wasn't playing the deck to beat Greyjoy, right? Like
Well,
that's a
that's
deck
no
that
kidding.
That is meta
yeah,
call.
like that deck, like against a half well piloted Greyjoy deck tends to lose, right? And I mean,
Sure, but that's not the point. It wasn't the point that Heat won. Like we'll harp on it because Heat won, and that sounds fancy. But like he had like 7 or 8 people build that bring that deck, and there wasn't going to be enough Greyjoy to stop all of them, and that's ultimately what happened.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Greyjoy floating around the middle tiers at the 3/2 range, but no, I think Rings was the only one to break through because with main house Greyjoy.
No, Rings
but-
is main house Lanny.
His
Yeah.
main house, anybody's laying
You know how you can tell because
He's Lanny Kraken, yeah.
Yeah,
you can tell because it's Rings, and that's all he plays.
there you go. But Rings got royally screwed. So which drama do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the minor drama of me not making the cut because I got screwed by a
You just
judge
want to do
ruling?
it chronologically and start with Melee, and then get to the crappy main event that you had, and then the crappy main event based on the cut, and then get to the crappy Sunday.
I mean, we should before we even get to the crappy stuff Roy had. It should just be the 5 rounds, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
So that was part of what I was saying, but we can start with the issue with Melee that Sandy had.
Okay.
Well,
what happened in Melee?
So Melee, Sandy, you had an issue in Melee? I mean, the problem, I think, fundamentally with the Melee, if excluding people like Chris and others who think the whole format is a problem.
I'm not even
that the format should exist
commenting on that. Yeah.
as a competitive format. The fact that we had 4 separate answers about whether there was a cut for
Wait, really?
Including going up to the flight center, Will Wentz going up to the flight center and finding out there's a cut. Then me asking Nate, "Hey Nate, is there a cut?" And then he says no, that there's no cut. Then Will going back to the flight center and asking if there's a cut and showing them evidence, and then them saying yes, there is a cut. Then me asking Will before the final round because I was in the cut no matter what. But if there wasn't one, I was going to play for first place on my last table and to be King of Swiss, which is what ended up what happened. So I would get the trophy and win the Melee. If not, I could have fucking just thrown the game to Sean Emberley or whatever the fuck, and it didn't matter because I was in. Whatever. But and Nate saying again there is no cut, and then finally at the end being like, "Oh, there's a cut," because he talked the flight crew.
And this was after everybody being told that the pack that was released at their booth with 4-hour lines the day before was legal for the tournament because it was a side event.
Yes, and I will say that Nate Tarantelli and Nate was able to sneak us into the Gen Con booth. I bought extra copies of the pack, both because I want Ryan's card and Greg's card in many play sets as I could possibly get my hands on. I may go buy another set of it because, God, you want those cards in your deck.
Do you know how to proxy? Like, has no one ever taught you that?
Sometimes I like having multiple tournament legal decks or building for other people. It's good to have multiples. And I was handing them out. Nate was handing cards out. It was a bit of a mess at the beginning. So that was the Melee. If you want more details about it, you can watch Rob's stream or listen to the next White Book episode where Sandy and I will be on. Because Sandy, myself, Jesse, and Chris Thompson were in the final table, which was both one of the more fun Melee tables and one of the more miserable Melee tables that I have ever been in. So.
Sandy, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Sandy, you're muted. If you
There's
say. Yeah.
All right, my bad. I know how computers work, guys.
Okay.
I would say one thing about Melee before we move on. I actually went to the judges after hearing Nate say there was no cut and tell them that that Nate said there was no cut and that there were like prizes and trophies and should I be playing for first place? Like, how are they going to determine this? And they said, well, it's Nate's call. He's the final arbiter of all this. And so going into the third round, I was like, well, I've heard it confirmed that there's no cut.
Yeah,
I played for second place. I was like, I can do whatever, I'm not going to get first. I have no idea what the tiebreaker is, but I'll get top 16. I'll get all the prizes. Turns out that was not the case. Whatever.
Wow.
This is still better than Melee last year when we were told it was a championship event and then not, and then they gave John
no trophy.
And then they gave John nothing.
I know. I really enjoyed.
I have more of a trophy for coming in third than Dark Notch has for last year for winning. So let's just be clear.
I was definitely.
Roy had that thing spring loaded. That thing just popped.
Yeah, right?
Both of my only 2 Thrones trophies. I don't have a heavy one like Show and Tell, so my only 2 Thrones trophies are right here next to my desk.
I have a 2 versus 2 event trophy, which I don't think they have anymore, do they?
Ooh,
No.
rarity.
So yeah, but the Melee was actually great fun. You can definitely watch Rob's game watch the final game recorded by Rob, which should be up soon, and it will definitely be a shit show. And you'll definitely see a war of Melee philosophies, which is me, whose philosophy with Thrones is what would Corey do, versus Sandy, who definitely increased his European fan base based on his behavior at the final table there.
I was playing Sarg Reigns in Melee, if anyone is curious.
So everyone's deck but Sandy's is available also on Throne CB if you like Melee. So I think, though, and again, listen to the White Book episode. We're recording it on Wednesday, so it'll be up probably not this Friday, but next Friday. And yeah, so I think we can move on to the Joust, unless Buzz wants to say something, because he's the only other person here who cares about Melee besides Sandy and I.
That's correct.
Okay.
Puzzle.
So the Joust.
Buzz isn't really here, right? He's
like half listening because I heard him laugh.
He's chatting. He's chatting all over the chat.
All right.
He's here via text.
Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about the first problem, which was the number of rounds before the graduated cut?
So we had I believe the number was 168 players, 170 something, somewhere in that range, like 160 to 170 players. And we were told that we were doing 5 rounds and then a graduated cut to 32 plus the next 16 that are tied with the 32nd player's record. And the way that played out with 5 rounds was that the 32nd player was a 4-1 with a modified win and made it a clean 32 cut. So they played 5 rounds, cut to 32 essentially, then played 2 more rounds of Swiss and then cut to 16, which makes no sense on multiple levels.
What levels are they?
I mean, first of all, the number of rounds for the number of players is completely skewed and is terrible. Like, there were players that were not mathematically eliminated that were eliminated at the graduated cut, which is the point of the graduated cut, is to drop everybody who's mathematically eliminated. So they failed there. And then they decided to play 2 more rounds and then cut half of the remaining field instead of cutting to 8 or something, playing 3 more, cutting to 8, something like that. So it's horrible. Like, I flew out there for 5 Games of Thrones, basically, and I feel very cheated by that.
Understandably, Chris. Very understandably.
I mean, I also feel bad, but I will say this is probably the only time in my life I will have the same record as Chris Schoenthal at a major tournament. So I felt okay about that.
I mean, you never know if you guys show up to Worlds. They might do 4 rounds and then throw you out on the street.
That's right.
What
That's right.
cut?
And then with a Destiny pack. You'll get a Destiny pack on your way.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
Those are too valuable.
So, in a related issue, there were definitely some really bad judge calls. So we have one. Before I'll tell my little story, is it Snuddy? Is that how I guess you can pronounce it? He says that besides what happened to me, there was incorrect ruling on Kings of Winter reducing income, income and reserve, and an underground vault ruling that was incorrect as well. Which doesn't surprise me based on the quality of judging that I received. So what happened basically with my game, which was the decider game, was that I knew my opponent was going to do something wacky, so I flipped the Fire That Burns, which is the Night's Watch 0 claim plot that all of your characters stand when they're defending, so they don't kneel to defend. Knowing that some bullshit was going to happen, and I needed to have all my options. And my opponent could get a range trigger. Well, I was playing against Lanny Reigns. Everyone knows my favorite deck in the world to play against. And I knew my opponent could, if they attacked with literally everyone, get a range trigger off. I didn't have enough green icons to stop that. But they would have to kneel out virtually their entire board, which would leave them vulnerable to me responding, getting my own range trigger, and just really be able to turn the whole tide of the game, which I was slowly at that point because I never saw the wall in the game, grinding out and slowing them down. But I needed a turn to flip it and really take control of the game. So I had Dragon Glass daggers on my characters, which makes them, while they're participating, my characters with intrigue icons, which makes them immune to character abilities while participating in a challenge. I and my opponent had a character with Intimidate, Genos Slint, and I knew that he couldn't intimidate my 2 big intrigue icon characters, John and Cotter Pike, because they both had those Dragon Glass daggers. I was like, keywords are character abilities, right? That's like in 2nd edition.
They're not triggered, but they are character abilities.
They are character abilities, right? Which is why Dragon Glass Dagger is printed the way it is. The character has to be in the challenge to get the immunity to character abilities, so they can still be stealthed, right? So otherwise, the cards would be even stronger than they are, and so I knew he could either kneel either John or Cotter with by flipping into Filthy, but he couldn't kneel both. Well, that's not what happened, because when he went to kneel both, one with Filthy and one with the Intimidate, I said, no, you can't do that. And then the judge, who was standing right by us, because we were one of the few games that were still running at that point, said, no, I'm sorry, they aren't character abilities, they're triggered game effects, so they can.
Can I pause you here, Roy?
Yeah.
When you say the judge said that, was the judge asked?
Was the
Yes,
judge asked that opinion?
because we were in a disagreement.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear whether or not that was. I had the same question.
Because my opponent turned to the judge because he knew the judge was standing over there, and I was tilted at that point. Like I'll be honest with you, like I should have called Nate over, but the judge said it with such like authority and like explained it, and I was like, oh fuck. One, I'm fucked for my turn. Two, I've judged tournaments in New York City, Philadelphia, and all over the place, and been like, oh. And made the opposite call, said that they are character abilities. Oh fuck! How many games have I? There's like 3 or 4 games.
Doubted yourself.
I doubted myself. Like I was like, oh fuck! Like I, as a judge, have made the opposite call. I've screwed over other people, and that's all I was thinking about. Like, and also then the third thing is like my turn is fucked. Like I planned the entire turn around this, and I can't do shit now. Like it was bad. And I looked at Dan Struhal, was also saying there. Dan gave me the kind of like you're fucked look, and I was like, oh. Man, and Dan apologized to me later. He's like, "I'm sorry, Roy," because he thought it was the judge was correct. And so I ended up.
It's one of the main things they announced as one of the difference between first and second edition in order to clarify the game.
Right. Well,
like it was one of their main. We're going to clear things up rulings. Does anyone else remember that? Am I crazy?
I do. Well, I mean, I do because I've been making the right call up to that point. But so the game ended up being. I still managed to grind it out into a tie, and I lost the game on a 1-card difference. In the tiebreakers.
How have they still not gotten rid of that stupid fucking ruling?
What?
That is my least, like, of all of this, that still annoys, because when that shit was announced, everyone was like, that's fucking horrible. And the only defense everyone had was, how often is it going to happen? Apparently all the fucking time.
Pretty often. Yeah.
No, I mean, the defense is, it's the next win condition, so it's the next tiebreaker, too. It's a stupid win condition, like, don't get me wrong.
I'd rather a coin flip at that point.
I mean, this isn't Star Wars, right? We're not like force training their decks or something. Like, why the fuck is it a win condition?
Well, because it is a win. Because it's a way to win the game, right? Because Mill is actually a win condition.
No.
Right, but it wasn't in first edition, so that's the point that Sandy and I are making. That it shouldn't be a win condition.
It's a win
I feel
condition.
reasonably confident, even with no cards in my deck, I can win with a Night's Watch deck. Like,
well, yes.
Well, yes, but it's a win condition because FFG/Alex hated the decks that would mill themselves and then build their own mini deck. So like, you can't do that anymore. And then they gave us all the fucking cards to do that again anyway. Because
why did Alex design a card that does that if he hates it?
I don't know. I just don't know. But like, and I love Raven, right? Like, you're just like, what? Why would you? But apparently, yeah.
Yeah, it was printed as a safety valve and theoretically to make pillage more valuable, I guess. I don't know. I actually wasn't upset that much at that moment. Like, it was just like, look, since I made a bad call with that turn, I still managed against a really great player to get the game to a tie when I completely borked a call. So like, I was feeling good, and then the judge turns to me and he goes, "Roy, I need to apologize to you because you were actually right." And then
right at that moment.
At the moment, right after I conceded.
Like right after the game was over, right?
Like literally right after I conceded. But
oh my God.
And then like that I almost had an aneurysm. But it was definitely a moment. I did get an extra Catelyn Stark promo out of it, so I do appreciate it, which the judge had to ask FFG to do. So I do appreciate that.
That means you got greater than 0, which is the number I got.
Well, you can come to Red Saturday and get a chance in the raffle to win that Catelyn Stark.
Hey, and Red Saturday, I will guarantee it on air, will be better run than either Gen Con or Worlds.
I mean, I agree.
Hey, do we have a date for Red Saturday?
Let me look at when Thanksgiving is.
Sorry, no. The one before that. Thronestoberfest.
Thronestoberfest, yes. I'm currently working with the store to finalize the details.
You're killing me.
I can't announce anything.
So that's
let me know when that is so I can be there.
Yes.
Yes, but I need to make sure before I say anything publicly. But we can talk offline, Aaron, about that. There, 4 Catelyn Starks. There he goes.
Yeah, I've already mailed a couple off, and I just gave one to Alex in Toronto today. So,
such rub-ins.
You guys should play Melee, maybe. And then you'll get promos.
It's true.
So the lesson there is, if you know you're right, and Roy, I think you knew you were right. You allowed the doubt to slip in.
Yeah.
If you know you're right,
Sid, you know me so well. That's just the person.
Work your way up. Work your way up to the top. Because Nate
And
would
that's what
have
I
given you the correct ruling.
Yeah, I just should have called Nate over, but I just
Say,
was like,
"Who's your boss, kid? I want to talk to your boss."
I should have called Nate over, but I was tilted. Like, I'll be just completely honest. Like,
Yeah.
I
mean,
was completely tilted.
we've all also seen Nate give wrong rulings, right?
Yeah, it's happened.
Like multiple times.
I have a serious question. Does anyone have a story of a judge giving the correct ruling? Because the one I thought I had,
I've given correct rulings as a judge. Yeah.
No.
No, he
At
didn't
Gen
at
Con
that
this-
event.
At an
at
FFG
Gen
event.
Con, yeah.
Oh, at Gen
No,
Con.
Gen Con this year.
Oh. Well, that'd be-
I don't know, because Lauren Rosario was also reporting that she had to make rulings for a judge. Like she heard the judge make a ruling next to her and said, no, that's not correct. And then the judge had to go and talk to Nate. Because the opponent guy was like, okay, if she doesn't think it, you should go talk to the marshal. That person's one step smarter than me. And so, yeah.
I'm going to start judging Destiny events, I think. I don't know how to play, but I feel like it's probably the lowest bar.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
mean,
intuitive anyways, right?
and I also heard through backchannel sources that FFG had a great problem where, based on FFG's internal rules, the judges couldn't be FFG employees. So the actual FFG employees couldn't, like, they weren't supposed to actually judge. Like, they were only allowed to make calls when the subcontractors came to them or a player came to them. They couldn't actually actively watch games.
This is due to the ruling from Wizards, I think.
Yeah, it has to do with their fear that of getting sucked into the Wizards of the Coast lawsuits.
Who were the subcontractors at Gen Con?
All the judges.
All the
Just
judges were subcontractors.
Well, were they volunteers like at Worlds, or was it?
No, they were paid actually.
I don't know if they were paid.
Oh,
I
they
did
were
not
paid
know.
out. Okay. I assumed they got room and board like they did previously, but
I didn't think they got paid. I thought that they got room and board.
Well, okay. I thought I heard that, but maybe I was wrong.
Maybe they were. Like, I really don't know. Like, I honestly could just
ultimately, that doesn't matter. What matters is that, like, they have this community that, like, is fucking insane about the rules. Like, if you're gonna give someone room and board to be a judge at this event, and this is a compliment, his name should be Alexander Hines, right? Like, if you're just going to give room and board, you give it to, like, the people who know the rules, not just random folks.
yeah.
I do think Slendy has a point that it was Nate that made the wrong rulings about Kings of Winter and Underground Vault, which doesn't surprise me because anyone who's spoken to Nate or spoken to Danny or listened to Danny in the interviews that he's done with Beyond the Wall and the White Book is that Nate doesn't really do much with Thrones beyond a supervisor level now. Yeah. Like he was there. I mean, the reason Danny wasn't there was a cost saving measure from FFG, right? That they
wait, time out. I didn't know he wasn't there.
No. He was there on his own.
He was there as a civilian.
He
paid his own money to go.
Did someone buy him 1,000,000 drinks?
He was doing other stuff.
But his parents were there, and it was totally adorable. Like, they were watching the top 8 game, and they were like, I looked at their badge, and I was like, wait, is that your son? She's like, yeah, we came to watch the game you made. I was like, oh, that is
absolutely the cutest thing in the world. Danny is my favorite designer in this game's history.
Ex Star Trek CCG player, I might add.
Danny is a sweetheart, and Nate is great. Like I'm not here like this is not like going after Nate. Like, I love Nate. Nate's a great guy, and he's a great designer. But he hasn't been doing Thrones. He's been working on L5R and Arkham Horror.
He drinks Coors Light. How great a guy could he be?
like it's just frustrating that, again, like, we were to go back to what we talked about on the last episode, we were overshadowed by L5R. They had the former lead designer of the game judge all of the Thrones events because, one, Nate loves Thrones and wants to see it, done to the best of his ability. And second, but FFG, they have a lead designer like that currently, as far as we know. Danny may be working for something secret for FFG, but we only publicly know that he has one game, and that's Thrones. He's not credited in the L5R box as the designer. He's not credited in Arkham Horror. He's not credited in Destiny as one of the main. So, like, Thrones and whatever secret stuff they have him working on is all Danny does. So they could have had him as the dedicated because they were running more Thrones events than they were running anything else besides L5R, right? So you would think that they would. That's what they did last year. Like, Nate was not there last year. It was Danny. And so it's just frustrating that the person responsible for these new intricate rules and rulings, like the Underground Vault one, like Kings of Winter, like the change of character abilities, which someone like Nate, who's been playing since the CCG, could easily screw up with the best of intentions.
Buzz wants more information on the interaction, I think, between Underground Vault and Kings of Winter.
I don't know. It's in the chat. I don't know that. I didn't hear the story. I didn't get to hang out much with the Wausau guys, so I don't. It was apparently happened to Wausau, so I don't know the story. But we have it in the chat if someone wants to pull it out of there. So that's just my point there. That's, I think, the fundamental frustrating thing about rulings is that FFG had the resource in the form of an actual human being that they already pay and have a payroll that they could have had run and marshal, plus their own HR rules, which understandably they want to stay out of that wizard stuff, and I can see that. But it is definitely frustrating that they put Nate in the situation that he was in. They put the community in the situation that it was in, and people, myself, selfishly, but also other people got fucked. And that is frustrating.
Hey, can I do a quick shout out?
Sure.
It's Tomas's birthday. Happy birthday, Tomas.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Tomas.
birthday.
Still, I
The
thought
Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Here in
Here,
America,
it's
it's
his birthday
probably
here.
like where he is. It's probably after his birthday, but
Oh, yeah, math. Time zones.
Yeah. So,
All right.
Can I say real quick? My only comment on this is that we all talk about how FFG hates money and how they're not willing to grow the game, but like they cut corners in the stupidest possible way. Like
Because they hate money and don't want to grow the game.
to attend the Continental Championships of the game he designed. Like that seems like I don't know, maybe that like I don't know, $500 is something you should throw at the game. Like whatever. Would you guys pay an extra $2 entry fee to the tournament if it meant Danny was there judging?
Yes.
So I feel
No,
like
because
it's
FFG
probably
should be
important
paying
here
for
to
that.
to make the point that was made on White Book this week, which is that it is there have been a lot of general overarching FFG OP fuck ups. There's no doubt about that, but they seem to be more pronounced at Gen Con. And that is partially due to what Gen Con is for FFG now, and what they do there and how they choose to allot their staffing, allot their budget. This isn't a defense by any means because I think they have their priorities skewed, but the point being that it's worse than average at Gen Con because they choose to use it as a marketing event as opposed to a
event.
Correct. Yes.
So, like,
That's a good point.
So you're suggesting that marketing is their priority, right? But
Correct. And they don't see.
But
Your next
that,
point, I'm sure, is that OP is marketing, and they don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say this, like the key example to this is to me like walking around there and looking at booths, be like, oh, that's a like clear like Destiny. Like you can't walk by the FFG booth, go into somewhere else, and be like. And look at the huge Destiny tournament, a huge L5R tournament, and say, oh my god, those are like real living, well, in the case of L5R, a real living card game. And Destiny is actually as big as it seems. But then, like, I was considering again going and buying into Ashes, and then I walked by the Ashes OP section and was like, oh, nobody's playing Ashes. Like, I'm not going to buy into a game that no one's playing, right? That's the key thing at Gen Con, right? That's the moment to make an impression in the most hardcore people that, hey, Thrones is a real thing because you have this 170 to 200 person tournament that's being pretty well run alongside
but I think they realize that if you give it a title and you make it look prestigious, you'll get the numbers. So people walked by Thrones and they saw, whoa, 170 people. I guess that's, it's a pretty big deal for the North American Continental Championship. And then they walk off and they don't see us all getting bent out of shape because they disqualified a world champion for bullshit reasons. Like, they don't see that part of it. They just see that the numbers are there. They see 700 people for L5R. They don't see that it took them 4 hours to pair the first round.
But, like, how many people at Gen Con wander by you and ask you about the game you're playing? Because it happens to me fairly regularly, or happened, I guess, in previous years.
Absolutely.
And, like, I mean, a lot of the answer is we got to stop promoting the game that they're not, right? Like, because we're the ones selling it. They wander by and like, hey, don't you look? How's this game? And if you're like, game's great, but they can't run shit. Like, I know we want more players, but like, then what is FFG's impetus to ever fix things?
Yeah, that gets back into the point I made on Alexander Hines' post on Facebook that
there's not a good way of us as the players showing FFG, hey, we don't appreciate the way that you treat our group, that is a way that doesn't also shoot us in the foot. Because, like you said, when somebody comes by and asks about the game, of course I'm going to say it's an awesome game. I fucking love the game. I love playing the game. I would play the game every day, all day if I could. But if I tell somebody I love the game, but they're not going to start playing the game, and then our player base is worse off for it. It's hurting FFG a little bit because they don't get their $200 buy-in from that person if they even went that route instead of just buying a collection like they should. But it hurts us far more because we are losing a player. We are losing somebody who could be part of this awesome community. That's the real reason we play.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you, Chris. And I think there's no, like, in Europe at the very least, you can point to the Road to Stalic events and be like, or official FFGOP may suck in Europe, but we have this wonderful fan-run community that then has this gigantic tournament in a castle in Germany, that's a selling point, right? In the U.S., we are too wedded, I think, because of the expense of like, there's a variety of reasons I think in North America that we're still wedded to official FFGOP, except in California, except maybe in the Northeast of the United States.
Sure.
I think those might be the only two regions, in the Midwest as well this year. I think the Midwest organizers have also those. So, but if you're not in those three regions, you're fucked unless you do official FFGOP, right? Or have Sandy's travel budget.
But
right?
That's also doesn't mean that, like, that also doesn't mean we have to advertise for them. Like, I mean, I get that for some reason we want more people in the game, but like, my genuine question is why? Like, because I don't care if we never get another new player again. Like, I just don't. Like, I don't. Like, if we keep the players we have and continue playing, the game will float along fine, and we can cost FFG money. And honestly, fuck them. Like, I know that you for some reason want the game to grow, but no, they won't. They really won't. They supported first edition with a fraction of this number of players for fucking a decade. They're really not going to just stop printing cards for like. But like or if they actually start losing a little bit of money, maybe they'll actually like go and try and fix something. Or advertise themselves and stop relying on a bunch of volunteers to do their fucking jobs for them.
Whoa, that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Like, but we keep doing this because we want the game to grow when, like, we're perfectly fine as we are. Like, stop doing their job.
So I guess my answer to that, Aaron, would be some personal anecdotal evidence, which I know is imperfect at best. But I started playing, in 2011. So I had like 4 years of first edition under my belt when second edition came out. And the reason that I would say, to answer your question, why do we want more people, is at least 10 people I can think of that I have brought to second edition myself and was like, finally, here's a point where I can bring some of these people that I love hanging out with into a community with other people I love hanging out with. And we can all, it improves the community, whether it's good for FFG or bad for FFG. Like, I want those people to know each other. I want to be able to hang out with all those people in one place at fucking Joe Sensors at 3 a.m.
Yeah. And I think Aaron's perspective is informed by the fact that Aaron's in a very envious position in the sense that he can have his cake and eat it too, which is when Aaron wants to play, other people provide opportunities for him to play in a competitive setting. And when he doesn't want to play, he can still hang out with us because we're all friends with Aaron. But people like Chris's situation, or people like myself I organize a lot of events, and to make an event successful, you need that magic combination of the hardcores and the middle tier players. Yeah. And like gradually, like the hardcores, that the kind of people like who do a podcast like this will keep turning out, but the hardcores who could switch to Destiny, the hardcores who could switch to L5R, they will do that when they see the competition lessen. When it just becomes basically something you do before you go to the bar. Like, that's it. Now, there are the hardcores like us like Sandy or other people who it is, like as Sandy said, that's the great thing about Fracas, right? It is something you do before you go to the bar and you party. But there are definitely enough people who they're not going to travel to Gen Con. They're not going to travel to Worlds if that's what it is. They want that competition alongside the community, alongside the camaraderie, alongside the partying.
I'm not saying,
and that's why you need this life
tournament. I'm not saying don't do your local tournaments. I'm saying like at FFG events, at like the few that they run, don't do their jobs for them. Don't make their jobs easier. Like if they're going to fuck up, just don't help them.
No. This is dumb. Like this is an unsurprisingly stupid opinion from somebody who doesn't attend major tournaments.
I'm gonna let Sandy do this while I get another beer.
No, I say that because I think we're friends. So like honest criticism, that is a bad idea.
Why?
This is because killing FFG, making it easier or harder for them, should not be the goal. If you make it harder for FFG, what are they going to do? Are they going to suddenly become good at organized play? I doubt it. I think they'll realize, hey, this is a money sink. We need to cut off our lines to make yet another Star Wars miniature game or whatever the fuck their secret projects are. And they're going to drop all support for Thrones. And then I get to play L5R, I guess. Or
I don't think that they're nearly as quick or adept that they're going to cut off support for the game. Like at the number of players or anything close.
If the game doesn't grow. If the game doesn't grow, what is that like? What satisfaction do you get other than spiting FFG?
I mean, spiting FFG is absolutely part of it. Without any question, as if because I've spent thousands of dollars to travel to their shit and had it poorly run way too many times. As have you, I'm sure.
So you want it better run, right? You just want it to be better. You don't want to. You don't want to.
Wait.
You don't want to torpedo the thing and watch it blow up and laugh. No.
How long have you been playing?
Me since Valyrian Edition CCG.
Okay, cool. So how often have you thought it's getting better run?
Never.
Like that's
never.
My point. That's my actual point.
There was definitely a time in first edition LCG when I thought the tournament structure was like well run. They had just published like rules for all this crap. Like it seemed well managed, and that was around maybe the start.
Maybe Maester. I would say even like Maester Cycle Shadows. That stuff was working. It was working then.
Yeah, like the tournaments were big. People were there. Like they didn't have an absurdly small amount of rounds. Like stuff was working. And I think the thing with organized play that's difficult to judge is that you can tell when someone is like, top 0.1%, like nailing organized play, and you can tell when somebody's just fucking terrible at it. But like in the middle, I don't know that it's necessarily obvious that like, oh, well, this could be better or this could be way better. But like really, it's good enough. And I think most of the time FFG is good enough. It's just recently they've just dropped all pretense of even giving a shit.
All right, well then that leads me to my question. Do you guys think that Zach is just the wrong guy for the job? Is he just the wrong guy to lead OP? I mean, he's had a year.
Who is Zach?
Yeah.
He's the one in charge of OP, Sandy. He's the one in charge.
But
Zach
definitely. But B, like, it's not just Zach. Like, there's clearly systematic like problems with this.
What Zach
beyond Zach.
His background is running big tournaments, and he has failed at that. Like he's failed to organize successful big tournaments. Like he's failed at that. He's had a year. He said on whichever podcast, Beyond the Wall, White Book. We're going to improve communication. Absolutely. Big goal for OP this year. That he didn't say that like a week ago, 2 months ago, like a year ago. He's had a year.
This time last year, yes.
Yeah, to get these things in, and communication doesn't take money. It really doesn't. Not much. It just takes effort. It just takes the desire to see.
We're gonna say the exact same thing we said last year at this time, and like. But it's not like this is getting steadily better or even like incrementally better. We have started at a low point and gotten significantly worse.
No, I think
because getting over, and that's why. That's why I think Luke's point is valid, because it's clear he's not taking this seriously, or somebody there is not taking this seriously. Case in point, the organized play Twitter account from Gen Con. Super simple thing, takes 2 seconds to update. I got my picture taken for that FFGOP account last year. There is no tweet after Friday of Gen Con from this year's Gen Con. Armada was the last tweet Gen Con.
Okay,
There was
so
no winner of the L5R event published.
Maybe this makes
no
me
winner of
wait.
Alex.
Maybe this makes me
Yeah, that's
entirely
fucked up.
entitled, but like we're like legitimately, every time you travel to one of these tournaments, you are spending upward of $1,000, and every time you spend upward of $1,000 to support this, they then have no reason to improve, and like we
You're not
continually.
spending it on them. Like, they see at Gen Con, you know how much they see from each player? Like, it's almost nothing because they pay Gen Con for the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
getting
the
away the money,
advertising.
getting around the money thing. I think the FFGOP has improved in a couple aspects. One, it's improved. I think that the prizes are better this year. I think that the ideas that they laid out for how L5R, like how it's going to operate, are very interesting. I think that the prizes that they gave for L5R are good. I think that
Roy,
the prizes
I will-
were much better. Hold on, Aaron. I'm going
I
to
will
get to
bet
this.
you your
Just-
beard that doesn't last.
I mean, I'm not going to take that bet. But my point is this: I feel like whoever FFG has that's like doing the big picture stuff and saying like the overall system that they've designed now, splitting Star Wars off from the rest of the games, doing all that stuff is good. But the thing that Zach and his team are not good at, and I think this comes to the Twitter, is they're not good at day of. Like, and I experienced the entire, like, I experienced the L5R thing. I experienced the thing where they had this awesome parade and all of this pageantry and bullshit and people and Steve Horvath like in tears about how much he loves L5R and this like thing, and everybody felt good like coming into that. And then it took 2 hours to get started, and it wasn't because the players weren't there. Its home crashed. It crashed again to the next tournament, like the next L5R tournament. It's just. OP was running around with his chickens with their heads cut off, trying to get these rounds doing. They made a bad call about how they're going to do it, and they did the same thing with Thrones. But they had more experience with Thrones, so it ended up being like the thing. They just are bad at running events that when they're not in their cocoon of worlds, where they control every little detail.
But that's also still not true because we still don't like. That's not the only problem. We still don't know when anything is happening at Worlds.
When's Worlds?
Right? Like that's not a day of problem. Like you guys, like I get wanting to be optimistic about this.
I'm not optimistic. I'm just
I don't
saying,
think
like,
any of us are being optimistic.
like you just got to give credit where credit's due. Like going into Gen Con, I thought they had improved, and coming out of Gen Con, I feel like they didn't. Like having experienced L5R and experienced Thrones, like, but coming in, like looking at the playmats, like this fucking box that I have right here is infinitely better than anything they gave out basically last year except Chris's trophy, right? Like. And they gave a good plot.
I'd kind of rather have that box than the trophy I got.
But you know what I'm saying?
The trophy I got was one of the egg trophies, like the regionals.
But what I'm saying, and and Melee had real trophies, including trophies for people like Sandy who didn't win. Right? We got awesome participation trophies. Like going into it, I was like, oh, that's so much better. Then coming out of it, it's clear that OP can't. When they're not at Worlds, because Worlds was Chris and Sid, Worlds that Sandy, I don't know if you were at Worlds this year. I don't remember. Was relatively well run last year, right? Like it didn't have any major hiccups, right?
And I feel like we're forgetting a giant Worlds controversy.
Not just this last year.
Not last year.
I feel like we're forgetting one, but it's fine. I don't remember.
I mean, the big controversy was just who won.
No, that was controversial. That was just a thing.
Melee was a side event. That's about as controversial as it got.
We certainly haven't even gotten to the Sunday event of this year's Gen Con, and we're already talking about how terrible he was.
Yeah, and I think that's what
we should probably get to that. Yeah, let's transition.
All right, so was any of Chris? Were you there?
I was not. No, I woke up at 11 o'clock to about 55 texts.
Yeah, I mean it was very similar. John, Dan Struhall went down there, and then I woke up to about 1 million messages because Dark Knight, we're gonna go. Like we were hungover. We were like, we're gonna go back to bed.
Hungover.
Yeah, but basically, long story short, you can listen to the White Book episode. But the bottom line is this: the printed time for the cut starting the next day was 9, with a registration at 8:30. FFG announced, some people heard it. It was talked about at the Thrones after party. So if there's one thing we can blame Matt, that Matt should have done, there's one thing he could have done to prevent this, which is come to Casablanca and
more
to the
sociable.
Thrones after party. That's the one mistake Matt made here and Kyle made. That's the only thing I can give them a hard time about. But the rest,
I didn't hear about it even there. But granted, I wasn't involved in top 16, so I wouldn't.
Yeah,
have heard
the
about
two people that were there that were in the cut were talking.
They knew about it.
They knew about it.
But I think one of them was Alex, who had heard it, who mentioned that he had heard it secondhand. Yes. So I still haven't heard from anybody who heard in their own ears from the FFG microphone, hey, we're moving to 8.
Right, but they moved it to 8, which led to, Kyle and Rings, who were staying in the same hotel room, were sort of, they were just getting started at about 8:20. They were taking showers, they were getting dressed. Kyle was basically ready to go, and he got messages from that he heard from a friend of a friend that the tournament's starting now. You need to rush your ass up. Kyle was able to make it there on time. Rings was not. Rings was disqualified, and he was fucked. But he showed up at 8:45 within the original window, so he wasn't anywhere near late. So he was fucked. Like, he just was completely fucked. FFG had no reason to keep going. They still had a timed final, even though by their own rules they're not supposed to, because of Gen Con time constraints. So it wasn't like they couldn't modify that around. There was just literally no reason, when they knew one of their players and they knew that this player, they had multiple ways of contacting him. One of the judges is his friend. The head judge is his friend. Many of the participants are friends with him on social media and have other things. There were tons of ways to get in touch with Rings and be like, "Are you coming? Are you dead? Are you in the hospital? Did you drink yourself so badly that you're in Indy General?" Like, there was many ways to get in touch with Matt that were not executed. He was just simply disqualified, despite being the unsettled nature of many of the people who were in the cut about it. And the 17th player was moved up to 16th, which is nothing against that person. That's not something he did.
Sure, Fred's a good guy, but
Fred's a good guy.
He's been speaking out himself about, I was the beneficiary of this, and I feel like it's pretty fucked up.
So I mean, if I was 17 at any FFG tournament, like, I'm gonna be there.
Oh yeah,
like, I'm gonna be ready because I know this stuff happens.
I was drinking with Fred the night before. And he was like, people have been telling me to show up, and I was like, you're 17. Of course, go show up.
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen. Like, I bet somebody will be hungover and miss it. And sadly, I was proven right.
But it wasn't even hungover.
You're only half right.
If it's hungover, it's a funny story, right?
Yeah.
But this is not a funny story.
Yeah, getting so toasted that you miss the cut, particularly when you're already the world champion. That's just like a funny, like, ha 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 story. But the fact that Matt wanted to play, he was willing to play. His deck was ready. Both he and Kyle both knew what the matchup was going to be. But Kyle had no idea what Fred was playing. But Fred knew what Kyle was playing was, fucked. Like, the whole situation is just fucked.
I mean,
hey,
did any real surprise Lanny Reigns? Like, no.
What did they do after the fact to make it right to Rings?
That's an open question that no one.
I think he got top 16 prizes from what I heard.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any clarification on that. I've heard that he got basically the Catlins and maybe the Stark House card that were given out as sort of a consolation. And I heard today that he may have also gotten a personalized email from Zach, but I don't know if that's true.
That's valuable.
He got an email.
That's how you get Zach to respond to a question. You just need to get.
And I know he did get a personal apology from me, which is.
I got an email from Zach last year where he promised to fix things in writing. Remember, posted.
Is it framed?
I mean, it's burned. Except it's email, so it doesn't really work. But
it's archived.
Yeah, it exists somewhere. But like, all of this will be fixed immediately. We will never have these concerns again.
Yeah, right.
Whoops.
So
he's not. I mean, I don't know. I feel a little bad because he's obviously in over his head. Like, I understand it must be hard to have to do your job for 2 or 3 days in a row. I know I certainly can't do that. But, come on, man. You got 100 people counting on you. At least maybe 200. Get your.
He has 2 big events a year to make sure they run well. You can blame a regional on a store, on whoever's running. It doesn't matter, right? There's 2 things Zach needs to make run really well: Gen Con and Worlds, and he 1
they
out of
outsource
2
U.S. nationals, right?
gone.
That's because all the tournaments in Europe are run by community members who actually know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, like, that means that he only
But
has
most of the tournaments in North America are 2. We're down to just 2 that FFG has to get right. 2 tournaments.
Like, again, but the thing that kills me is they could just ask the community tournament organizers to help. Like, we're a community that volunteers for fucking everything. Just if you're like, hey man, we just want to make sure we have these things covered, just ask the community.
I'm waiting for Twitch judges Gen Con, where we just put every ruling on Twitch chat. I feel like that'd probably be better.
It'd be more effective.
Actively judge the games. Would be great.
We'd absolutely have a higher than 0% chance of correct rulings.
Is that everything? Did we catch all the Gen Con drama?
I think so.
I mean, isn't that enough?
I mean, it's a lot.
Do we want
it was
some
really
more,
it was really funny because between the top the Swiss rounds and the graduated cut, I ran into Nate and he and I were talking and we were both like, oh, this year at Gen Con, not a lot of drama. Things, Sandy knows what I'm talking about. Like,
I remember that.
Things are good, and there was just like big smiles on my face and Nate's face and everyone else's, and then it was just like I shouldn't have done it. It was like all downhill from there. It was like, boom, just right.
Yeah, I was already bitter at that point because of the terrible number of rounds and my last round loss being a horrible timed loss.
Was it tiebreakers too?
No. It was a guy who took like 20 minutes per plot, and including like 5 minutes after he had won a challenge to figure out if he wanted to trigger reigns. Like, just that's partially on me. Like, I probably should have called a judge at some point in that game, but realistically, I don't have any faith in their judges to do anything about it. B, I don't think there's anything they would have done about it.
Well,
and C, it's something that in our community is not really properly addressed. That calling a judge, in the Magic community, it's made very clear. Like, calling a judge is not accusing your opponent of something. Calling the judge is just making sure that the game is moving, making sure that the rules are being applied correctly on both sides. Yeah. And in our community, when you call a judge on someone, it ends up sounding like you're accusing them of something.
People take it personal. They really do.
Yeah. No, I definitely
agree.
I don't, but I definitely see people who do.
People do.
Yeah. But Chris, you're such a notoriously slow player. Like, how could this ever?
I think. Do you want to name and shame or no?
I'm not too interested in it, mostly because I will mention this, that it was a player from the DC area, but it was not a named DC player.
I can confirm he's not a named DC player, but
I had my time lost to.
Probably,
yeah. So he's genuinely, like, he played like a new player. Like, I wasn't surprised when he was like, I'm kind of new, I'm still learning things. And I talked to Seth and Corey both about it after the game, and they were like, oh, that's really kind of a bummer. We'll really work with him on it. And Corey specifically and I had a really good talk about it, but after the fact, it doesn't really change anything.
I have one other thing to say, which is that I did call a judge probably 3 times during my Melee games, but only to ask when Worlds was. So I feel like that's
did it work?
No. Nate was one of them, and he just glared at me.
I think also, I think there's actually one thing that sort of actually came out of Gen Con. I'm glad Chris reminded me of it, which is the rise of stall and the way in which the shitty tiebreakers work does actually make slow play a more increasingly. I saw at Gen Con more than any major tournament I've been to, like more timed wins, more games going to time than sort of any time before, and makes sort of slow play a legitimate strategy. Well, by legitimate, I mean a strategy that you can use to win, not necessarily like you can agree, but like
especially when they don't do enough rounds. And I couldn't, I had 20 minutes left in that game. I had to say to him, hey, whoever wins this game, we need to make sure that we're just going to concede and give them the full win because the tiebreakers are going to be so important that you can't afford to take a 4-point win.
Oh, there's
as
no
evidenced by the fact that
there's no 4-point win anymore.
There's a 4-point win. There's not.
I thought they got rid of that.
No, you still get a mod win. There's no mod loss.
This is why you need to play
1 point.
Right, but here's the thing: taking away the 1 point from the mod loser discourages the mod loser from giving the person a mod win because it hurts their strength of schedule. So if you're in the 3-2 situation and it came down to some 3-2s can make it, you want the person who beat you to have that full win for your strength of schedule. So whatever. Yeah. But I think the problem is like decks like Lanny Reigns can easily get to 9 power in like the first.
That's not the problem.
2
the
plots,
problem is
and then stall against a slow deck.
Did you read his tournament report? Like he won multiple games like 6 power to 3 because he just like used that trick to get all the power off the house and was just like, well, I'm gonna win them all this way. And like
when he couldn't win, he used the knight, right, just to knock.
Yeah, you used the knight to stall the game.
Yeah, and he would just do the double, and like that's fine, I guess. But like, I mean, it's totally fine that he did it in the tournament. It's legal, but like, hey, that's not really.
But here's the thing: I have way less problem with Alex's approach because that's like using cards to do that, versus what you can do with decks like Tyrell and Lanny Reigns, which is against slower decks. You can get the 7 or 8 power in the first couple of plots, and then sit. If you know that in a long game, Targ Fealty, Night's Watch Stag, Night's Watch Reigns can grind you out. If you just play slowly, you can run the clock to the point where, because slow the game down so your opponent can't draw the pieces it needs to turn the game and win a game 8-4, even though. If the game kept going, like Alex's deck will beat you if you give it enough time, right? If you gave that Martell deck 4 hours to play one game, it would win most games, right? Any game that could go to 4 hours. But like Lanny Reigns against the stall deck, against Night's Watch Reigns, against Tyrell Reigns is gonna eventually lose, or Targ Fealty is gonna eventually lose. But if you get to that, if you put as much power as you can up early and then just slow plays, take a while to do plots, take a while to draw, all that kind of stuff, you can win a game that you actually, like Chris's game, that you're actually losing. Like I think that's more dangerous to the game than the Martell. Like the Martell deck is in an NPE level is more dangerous, but like in a I guess tournament integrity way, it's more frustrating that players that can play decks that get an early advantage can just then be like, oh, all right, I decided my plot.
I'm not a big fan of either, but I see the point.
Yeah.
So I will say one slightly positive note. I do think we should shout out to all of the tournament organizers and tournament judges that do not fuck up as much as FFG does. I know
literally all of them.
Yeah. The most recent tournament I had before Gen Con was Fracas, and it was like amazing. So Fracas had more people, almost double the number in Melee, and like 20 more Joust, I think. And not only was it was 8 rounds. First of all, it was 8 rounds, but it also ran I think 8 hours and 45 minutes with 55-minute rounds. Which is amazing, right? And that is, I mean, Lucas did an amazing job. Don Skaven, Panda Post guy, did an amazing job organizing everything, herding cats. There were judges that were players who knew the rules. There was no drama. There were 3 games that went to time. And he instituted a rule where they, cut everything short. It was sudden death. He's like, if you're not done in 5 minutes before starting the next round, decide a winner or it will be decided for you. And I'm that's the right approach to take. That's the, I mean, you don't want to keep 200 people waiting on 2. You don't want, and I think this is what happened in L5R. The last round, complete the last round just took way too long. And I think it incentivizes, there's social pressure to not slow play at that point because people will yell at you. Anyway, I don't think he's unique in that. I think, for example, ETX was run really well. Actually, I would say almost every non-FFG run tournament has been run really well. like I think the biggest complaint at ETX was using Tome instead of Joust and Pavilion, which all things considered is pretty minor. Like DC
ETX did have to let the head judge go.
Yeah, did fire the head judge.
That's kind of minor. They had to boot him out.
And then
Because
Chris
he was making bad
Schoenthal,
calls.
I remember this
that's
now.
right. Chris isn't just a champion of my heart and
So let's
former
not-
North American champion.
It wasn't
He's also a
perfect.
former
Correct.
temporary head judge of U.S.
It was
National.
corrected. The problem was corrected.
It was
And
immediately.
I gotta say, ETX did. Patrick did a great job of like remedying that. The situation was taken care of. He realized it was a problem. He came to a group of the players that were in the tournament and said, how do we solve this? It got solved. I was well compensated for it, not monetarily, but like I got a shirt and a lot of the prizing for it. So, he made it worth my while to take my Sunday to do that instead of doing any number of other things I could have been doing in what's a beautiful city.
So, why not have Patrick come in and run Gen Con?
Because Patrick runs a game store, and at Gen Con, even more as much as FFG is about meetings and marketing stuff, I'm sure Patrick's got a full schedule. Yeah. A new product he's got to test.
How about you, Roy? You run Gen Con.
No.
He wants to play.
I ran dance like that was a smooth.
No.
machine.
I'm not saying you couldn't run it. I want to beat you in Joust.
Okay. All right. So
Roy's too good for that now, Sandy. You can't beat
Whatever.
Roy anymore.
I beat him in Melee. Do it at
we
Joust.
tied in Melee technically.
Whatever. It was a
There
blow.
are people though
Talk
who
to me,
don't
Haley.
go,
Like-
who would go if you just paid for them to hang out with their friends and run Thrones. They would.
Yeah.
I mean, and pay is very like a loose term. Like if you just offered me room and board, I'd
just
study roles and do it.
Get there.
Sure.
All right. I think we've though talked this to death because there's sort of one more topic that we should do, which is what we've talked this to death. What do you have another point? Do you have a brand new point about Gen Con, Sandy?
No, I mean, what other possible topic do we have?
We have a pack that did.
Oh, we're
going to
talk about the pack still.
We're going to talk about the pack. All right.
forgot
I
that.
had Aaron do this work.
I don't
We're gonna
care.
do
We can
it.
blow it off.
Kid Seatbelt
No, I
probably
wanted
loves
to,
this
like-
card.
I
You
mean,
really
guys
wanna
add
do
the
it?
episode? We can't add the episode.
Let's see, what other card? This card is why I screwed Roy in Melee.
Is Sandy going rogue on the card thing right now? Is
Yes,
that-
He's just throwing cards at the
We're
screen.
How did
just
mine?
flipping cards up on the screen.
Can I mute him?
Uh,
No, I'm just buzz.
This card I hear is pretty good. I don't know. May not be.
That-
Seems pretty good to me.
Pretty dumb.
Probably
That
run
is-
it if you run
So
this card.
that
Or if you run
extraordinarily dumb card might only be the fourth best card in this pack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe third.
Is it the best
This
pack?
is
Wait,
the best
so-
pack that's ever happened.
Is
Yeah,
this the best
there's
pack
a lot of
in
good
second
cards
edition?
here, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Is
this
it-
is the best
is it-
pack. Second
Is it crazy that we got like a really crazy, exciting Viper, and it's not in the top like 6 or 7 cards that are the best in the pack? Like,
Yeah,
I
no,
was hoping he would be
so-
better, but
so
He's still pretty good.
I did
he's
a top
very
5.
good, and he's what
Pretty
Martel
good.
needs. But
I did a top 5, ended up with the
Overshadowed.
top 8 or 9, and Viper is not on that list.
All right.
Yep.
So, Aaron.
No, I mean, Viper's better than this card. This bullshit.
yes. Well, there's
Yeah,
20
so-
cards.
So it
look,
seems
all right,
like
she's
50,
got some
whatever.
really nice.
All right,
skills.
all right. I'm going to bring some
All right.
order to this. Aaron did some prep here. So, Aaron.
it took me all
What?
of like 30 seconds, guys.
All right. What
Yeah,
are
I mean-
your in?
All right.
Oh, is it descending order?
We're
What
gonna
are
go.
your?
We're gonna
five
start with
to-
number 1, so
with
that
number
you can
one?
yell at me when I start getting the lower ones wrong. I think Flea Bottom's one of the like 3 best
Oh,
cards. in the game.
excluding Ryan's card, right? Because we did
Yeah,
a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
episode with Ryan
Right.
about his
Yeah, yeah.
card. So
Ryan's card or Mutiny would be number 3. I think Flea Bottom's the best card in the game, like or at least up there.
Kind of agree.
No,
There.
I think you're
The most
biased
broken
because
card.
you love recursion or
Oh, no.
control or whatever. It's the best card. I don't know. I can't.
it works in everything, right? It
It
works in
costs-
control
it
decks. It
costs
works in
1 gold.
aggro.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't work in Rush. Rush doesn't care, but like everything else is just so happy. I played 6 of the 8 houses are in love with Flea Bottom, and they're not like I want to run one of in love. They're like I'm gonna run 3, and now suddenly Close Call isn't nearly as bad. Like, yeah, it's good. So
For one, number 2.
my question is, what deck do you most want to build with Flea Bottom?
Stark.
Yeah, I knew your
Yeah.
answer.
I think I agree with him.
Stark has ridiculous tricks. Summer.
It's really good in Targ too. I love it in Targ.
Because Targ, you can seed your fucking discard pile. Like,
Yeah.
like fuck that. Like that's even that's like that's worse than like
Night's
playing
Watch,
the Stark event.
Got a dragon in there, and you just have infinite military claim. You're just like, cool. I'll just put that in, take it out, put it in, take it out, and that's like that's the least good trick they can do with it.
Yeah.
Night's Watch is not sad to have it.
Oh, you mean? I mean, one of the things that I'll be testing for Worlds is the infinite wall deck that uses that sacks veteran builders every turn. So it doesn't matter if you turn the wall off.
I mean, hey, you know what the best thing about Flea Bottom is? It makes this podcast's mascot card unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
Unreal good.
Second Sons.
Yep.
Better than
I'm
the
so
Hound.
happy that card's suddenly playable.
It's so far beyond playable. It's amazing.
What does Second Sons do? It's like 3 cost.
It's a 3 for 6 power bicon, but like once it discards itself at the end of challenges. So
Yeah.
like you can just recur it every turn for
it's
1
a forced
gold.
reaction. So
So it happens before the
triggers
go to the
before it
bottom of
goes
the
onto
deck.
It's like a hand that skips the whole going back to hand nuisance. It just goes right back to where you want it.
It's a
Okay.
1 for
It's
6.
an ambush. It's an ambush for 1 from the discard pile. Is what
And
you're
they're-
saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
it's
Every turn.
non-unique. So if they kill one of them, then
You
you still have
destroy
2
it.
more in
Keep
your
going.
deck.
Keep doing it.
Oh, it's so
Like,
good.
how
How are they gonna?
I might
How
need
are they
to buy
gonna
that
kill a
Zygarde.
6-strength military icon though?
Oh, Tears, the best kill spell in the game.
That's what it's
No,
I mean, the force reaction happens
Before the force reaction
happens
happens before then.
It's completely broken. It's absolutely hilariously insane.
Right, you can't kill it. Oh my god.
What you want to
Put
do is
sword.
what you have to do is kneel it. You need to even-handed justice.
But it
Oh,
still just goes to the discard pile.
oh yeah, right. That
And
still
the next
happens.
turn it just
Uh,
comes back.
It's so crazy. It's so good. All right.
Target's pretty broken.
Lay Siege. Only solution.
Is it contested?
It's not contested. It's not,
No, but it'll kneel it. You have to kneel it, don't you?
Yeah.
You do have to kneel it.
Yeah.
Hold
Get
on.
that one
I'm saying
So
it
that
doesn't-
so the it just makes Greyjoy better, right?
Let's play
Buzz
Greyjoy.
The kneeling guy.
Buzz is wrong. I think
Buzz
Buzz
is-
is wrong.
Buzz is wrong. That's the order.
I think you meant Tears doesn't work. I think is what Buzz meant.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is true.
That's
Yeah,
possible.
so Tears
Yeah.
doesn't work, which is true.
Yeah. Okay. Then we all
Okay.
agree.
What's the next card?
Salt
Number
Life
2 card
is super,
is-
super good too. As
Yeah,
Heck,
Salt Life
yeah.
fun.
Melee. Only in melee.
No, it's
Wild
good
Look
in Joust,
Scout. I
too.
just want like a neutral option. It's like
Yep. I mean, everything in Martell, the fucking Aerial Hota is pretty fucking insane with it.
yeah, he is.
And then
I
you
played
just chuck,
I played the Alex deck like 4 times this week. I just threw in Flea Bottoms and Ryan's card, and it was made the deck like crazy good. Like
So,
not that
I mean,
it just
and
won
it just-
Gen Con, and it's like better.
so the best thing about Hota, like, but just a reminder, like, I'm pretty sure you can discard to below reserve, right?
What?
No.
No?
You
No.
can't
I
voluntarily
don't
just
think so.
Oh, okay,
No.
that's sad. Then you just have to keep one extra card. Okay. So next,
You just draw a
begging,
bunch of cards and then chuck
Yeah.
stuff. Like I mean,
secret schemes, and then you have way too many cards. All right, Begging Brother
Yeah.
is number 2.
Yep. Number 2.
So
Begging Brother.
I
He's great.
don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know that I agree because I think that a lot of character abilities
Excuse me.
with the sacrifice meta, with all of this stuff, like I'm not sure character abilities are actually going to be that good. I think passive stuff maybe, like Danny's passive ability is really good. I think Renown is obviously really good. But like, what character abilities are you going to cancel?
Varys, Bran.
All right, yes. You want to
Varys
Uh,
again.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that you like Summer, if for Stark Abuse decks, Salt Wife, like it's a good answer to a lot of the like triggers that people want.
Varys, Victorian.
Victorian
Oh.
save.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, Victorian.
Victorian-
Save.
Victorian
Euron.
save.
Euron.
You're on, yeah.
When that Euron's going to end your game, and you can just say,
How about
"Fuck you."
How about a
Tyrion
mountain
Tyrion
that's going to
save.
blow up your
Brother,
barrier with
yeah.
The
stupid
rain,
Victorian
Great
save?
Rain.
Yep, Tyrion, Mountain. God, just there's so fucking many. The game is full of them.
Rob.
Arya coming into play and being a
Yep.
fucking pain in the ass.
Miri
Jon Snow, making
Mazur.
sacrifice
Oh, yeah,
Hello.
Miri.
Yep.
Like,
Any of the Jon Snows.
The reactions that go on Danny from her drag,
Yeah.
like the stand,
Any of the Shiver
Uh,
Dragons do for her,
just as a character ability.
except for Renown, right?
But it's-
how
it's
about
great
you
use
use
stands.
Flea Bottom to put it back into play and stop like a Miri
Yep.
or whatever else
Yep.
we're about to do with?
Roy, it's
Once you get
triggered
one-
character ability specifically, so keywords don't work with Begging Brother.
No, what I meant is Rhaegal, who stands her up, right?
No, I know, but you said
Yeah.
except for Renown, as if stealth did work, and I just wanted to
No,
clarify
no,
it didn't.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I wasn't
that was
trying
me.
to play them. Sorry.
I was trying to say that those two wouldn't, and I didn't get it through. All right, but like a million other cards, Melisandre, new Stannis, like
both
Varys.
Melisandres, by the way, both Melisandres.
Yeah, yeah.
But Mel usually is going to happen in marshalling, right? And so doesn't he have a restriction? Oh, he doesn't. Oh my God,
he
it's
doesn't.
so
No, he doesn't.
Well, then he wouldn't work on Varys, Sid.
it's
Yeah,
so good.
because
That's right.
Challenges only.
No, I was thinking of Flea Bottom, bringing him out with Flea Bottom, and I was like, because you have to do that during challenges.
That one won't work. That combo won't work.
That won't. But just marshalling him with a bunch of gold.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you can also pop him in with Flea Bottom. Like, I don't see why almost every deck wouldn't just run 3 of these.
I'll be right back, guys. Keep going.
Like he'll shut off Crescent.
Sid's going to buy some more Begging Brothers.
Yeah,
I do think. I mean, I see your point, but I think like the era of big characters is kind of over.
I don't think
It's not big characters.
Well,
it's not an anti-big character card.
You want your characters to do shit.
Yeah.
As a general rule, like almost every character in your deck is doing something, and to say no, you're not doing that. Like Begging Brothers' existence means Laura said that builder's trick doesn't really work. I don't think.
Yeah, Ed. It does suck when Ed happens to Ed.
Yeah, that's the end of that, right?
I think the other thing, it definitely raises the value of characters with passive abilities. So, like Cat, Tywin. I'm trying to think of other.
One of the cats.
Danny.
Yeah.
It's really bad for Big Cat.
Danny's strength return. Yeah, and Big Cat gets better with Flea Bottom.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting. I think
it's never
one of the
more
more
hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's enough good character abilities in almost every deck is running. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, core Cersei gets better, but what's her face Cersei? The box Cersei gets worse.
Box Cersei gets way worse.
So
I don't think it's way worse. She still deals with that.
Abusing her though is more difficult.
Sure. It hurts the Wonder Woman deck. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it hurts Hyper Viper.
It destroys Hyper Viper by Hyper Viper.
God, yeah.
Have fun having been in the meta.
I mean, Benjen, it just
Begging Brother. What's the interaction between Begging Brother and High Septon?
I don't remember.
Change the
I don't know
I'd
if
have to read both cards. So
because it may not be the end of Hyper Viper.
Okay.
But Begging Brothers, I'm pretty sure. Let's say that it does work. Begging Brothers can then, I believe, discard another gold to cancel the High Septon's ability.
And the High Septon's ability is once per phase, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So as long as you have 2 gold on your Begging Brother, right?
Yeah, I think 2 gold is the optimal.
So I don't think it'll work just because. So High Septon is interrupt when an opponent chooses a character you control as the only target of a triggered ability, and I don't think that
the ability
is choosing the target of the.
It's choosing the ability, not the card itself. Yeah, so it wouldn't work. But even if it did, you could discard 1 gold again from Begging Brother to cancel.
So I have the same question for Begging Brother as I did for Flea Bottom. What house do you think this helps the most? Where do you think this is the most useful?
Greyjoy. I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
All the houses? Is there
I think Martell wants it most.
Yeah.
Yeah, Martell.
Martell really misses having a cancel.
Yeah, Martell just wants shit not to disrupt it, right?
Yeah, but I think Sandy does have a good point, as Buzz says. Greyjoy does want to cancel, and a lot of character abilities do cause some headaches, like Varys, for certain Greyjoy decks. Like decks that don't like Varys really want Begging Brother. So Stark, Night's Watch.
Yeah, this card is amazing.
Cancel on demand.
This card is amazing with my champ card, by the way, because it only counts for 3 since it's bestow.
Yes, true.
All right, what's number 3 so that we can.
Number 3 is Mutiny.
Mutiny,
because we're not counting Ryan's card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mutiny's stupid. I don't know how that has no restriction on it.
It's so dumb.
Yep. There's nothing that's not dumb about this card. The lack of restriction.
It is also an incredible Martell card.
Yeah.
Well, and its interaction with Flea Bottom.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, okay. So my question for Mutiny is.
So is Varys fucked? That's really the question.
That was my question. Yeah, that's it. Between Begging Brother and Mutiny.
All right, wait. Let's say this again. Sid will go first. Sid, between Begging Brother and Mutiny, are Varys decks fucked?
Begging Brother and Mutiny, yes. Yeah, they are.
You should.
You gotta put your mic down, bro.
Put your mic down.
Affirmative. They're fucked. Yeah, they are. I mean, if people play the cards,
Yeah,
And they're good
I can't
cards.
imagine. I can't imagine. If you're not playing these cards and you can,
Yeah.
should probably reevaluate things.
Yeah, Varys has a really hard time surviving with this pack alone. Like, Gen Con itself would have looked wildly different with this pack.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you don't just insert this kind of time bomb or this grenade into the meta like that. But I'm excited for the Worlds meta. If Worlds happens, if there is a tournament, I'm excited to see. Yeah, if it's going to happen.
I mean, Buzz has a good point in chat.
Why is he just not on? He does this every time.
Varys. It's going to be back to sort of where Varys was before the rise of Last Giants Varys, which is he's pushed out of the meta. But like, if you go to a tournament and no one is expecting Varys, they're fucked unless they're Lannister with treachery. Night's Watch deck that's not expecting Varys and not playing around Varys, it's pretty fucked.
The problem is that half of these options aren't like Varys specific. Like Mutiny's still going to be in Night's Watch decks after Varys gets phased out. Like
that's true.
And Begging Brother still swings games with that one cancel. Like its threat of activation is fucking insane, right?
And Mutiny is not even, it's non-loyal. Like it's going to be all over the place. Half of a Night's Watch banner is now just going to be like 3 Mutinies and 3 Cravens and whatever else you want to, like whatever really good efficient stuff you want to throw in.
Craster's not loyal.
Yeah,
Craster is not loyal, nor are the stupid ranging parties, which remain the best 4-cost army.
Is it Maester Aemon still? He's non-loyal. I mean, just go for it, right? Like,
Watch is the best banner, I think, after this pack. But all right,
and they might be the best main, so that's a good combo. Next card is going to be next card is going to be very controversial, I think. But Olenna's Machinations.
What? Yeah. Wait, what number is this? 4?
Controversial.
4.
In fact, I would say that you're wrong.
Yeah, I would definitely say you're wrong.
I think that I'm wrong until this card is broken. Like I'd rather
just play Olenna's Informants and then flea bottom them back.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't think you run one or the other, but yes, I just think
Olenna's Informant is an obnoxious card with flea bottom
because Terrell can already rush crazily well, and Terrell Reigns is already really fucking good, and I think this bridges the gap between the two really fucking well. Like, it becomes a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario.
I'd rather...
And a Euro is going to break this. I don't know who. My assumption is Wama. But, like, a Euro is going to break this card. Probably in Reigns, but maybe in Crossing.
Aaron, friendly bet. Bet.
Yes?
Your beard versus mine.
No, you don't have a good enough beard. Grow it out first.
Better than yours.
Ooh, shade.
No, anyway, all right. Friendly bet. I think that my pick for this power slot will end up winning a tournament with 20 people or more before yours does.
Let me do number 5 first, because you have to pick something that's not number 5, I guess.
Well,
does that make sense? Well, okay.
He said for number 4 spot. So
okay. What would your number 4 spot be?
Let's be clear. Sandy's playing a tournament this weekend. Are you counting this weekend, Sandy?
Yeah, he can. He's not making a cut.
You build me a deck. If I
gotta build
with this card.
Wait. What's the card?
You want to know the card?
Yeah. It can be the Jeekwe.
Eerie, not Jeekwe.
Oh, Eerie.
What is that?
The Iron Victory.
Oh, Iron Victory?
Yeah.
I just feel like you're not really building around that. You're sticking a 1 of in a deck. Like, it was on the, like, it ended up not being 1 just because you're not really building around it. It's a good card, but you just stick it in a deck and you're kind of like, if I see it, I see it. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
You're never going to run 2, right? You're just like, here's 1, and if it's great, it's great.
So my pick for 4 spot. Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
My reasoning for this is actually based on not Iron Victory itself, but it's the.
I think Greyjoy is just better.
I think the rush potential of Greyjoy is like off the charts now. You now have rise turns, and like after a rise turn, if you don't win, you just flip Valar and win. Like, what the fuck? This is fucking garbage.
It's limit twice. Like, that's the one thing that kind of holds it back. The limit.
Yeah.
If it had no limit, I would agree with you. But the limit keeps you from kind of just winning with it.
Put yourself in a heads on spikes situation where you're at like 13 and you know. I mean, it's a more consistent heads on spikes than a Greyjoy Rush deck, right? because you win immediately when you go to 15, and if you can make yourself, you get to choose the order in which your characters die, right? So you don't pick a character with renown to die before you get to.
You'd have to have 2 saves, which is not always given.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, you're not going to flip Valor in this situation, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying, like if this is the setup, if your combo is I don't win on my Rise turn or my Clash of Kings turn, which you would probably be running in this deck, right? Clash and Rise, right? Then you Valor with your 2 saves, which you will have a Greyjoy deck, like because it counts dupes, Iron Mines, and Risen, right? In a mono Greyjoy deck, like if you don't have 2 saves, like why are you playing Greyjoy?
So I have a different thought. Hand's Judgment's the best card in the game. I lied. It's not Flea Bottom, it's Hand's Judgment. It's just Hand's Judgment. Between Ryan's card, Mutiny, and fucking everything else. Like,
why do people keep wanting the Hand's Judgment Ryan's card? It's not that good. Just look at the guy back.
It depends when. Right? Like, if they're using it in marshalling on a first snow turn type situation, where that's the actual point of it, it's really good.
Great in Lannister. What you're saying is it's good in Lannister, which playing first snow to fuck people up who want to play around first snow with Ryan's card.
I mean, it could be.
So
really
it's a Joe
good.
Morando card, is what you're saying.
It could be really good in that. That could be really good in Night's Watch too, where like in the Night's Watch they're trying to get a big character back in order to play the wall in something else. You can turn that off. You can not allow them to have gold for Flea Bottom, which will often help you win games. Yeah, there's options.
Yeah.
Can we just take a moment to marvel at the genius that Ryan gave his card such a nice long name, so it's always just going to be Ryan's card instead of like it'll just roll off the tongue like Flea Bottom or like Reigns. I mean, it might get to just being Bank at some point, but until then,
or Iron Bank.
Ryan's card is way shorter than.
Well, but just Ryan, it's really it's credit to the work that Ryan did to make himself so beloved among hardcore Thrones players that they want to call it Ryan's card. So he did both things, right? He created a perfect storm. It's almost as if he planned it.
He also features prominently in the art more so than most champs get their kind of likeness on a card, right?
Given the sheer presence of Ryan, that is appropriate.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm still waiting for Matt Lay's like big burly arm to come out again.
Is the Stark card, past the Black Gate, which I think is really ridiculously good because it opens up a huge amount of deck building options for Stark, where they're no longer as reliant on fealty. They can. That's the fact that there's a ridiculous number of 6-cost good Stark cards printed. It makes it easier for them to play those 6 cards that after they get reset, if they're playing smart, they can have a big swing turn with some of these econ plots. So I think actually the Stark card, and probably I will not make a shaving your beard bet. 1, because my beard is going to be gone in a couple of weeks. 2, because I don't do those kind of bets. But I would definitely say before Aaron's number 4 pick that a winning deck list will be running Stark.
I don't think passing. I don't think passing is the card that brings Stark back.
So,
I don't
time out.
think
I've got a question.
Nonsense? Yes.
I've got a question. Wama won a tournament of like 20 to 22 people this weekend, right? What did he play?
Stark Greyjoy.
Oh, did he? Damn it. He goes back to Terrell. I got confidence in this. Most British players still suck. All right.
Dude, it's saying those cross keys guys will kick the shit out of you.
I don't know enough about it. But, all right.
Aaron is channeling Seth Lowe because that was one of Seth Lowe's themes of the weekend.
Competitively hollow.
Competitively hollow.
No, the really good British players are really fucking good, but like the majority are just casuals. And number 5 is Stannis' Cavalry.
Ooh.
I think that card's gonna be really good for a really long time, and I think it's probably the 3rd best 4-cost army in the game.
You think?
Can you count it as a 4-cost army when you need like 5 gold to make it good, though? On top of the 4,
you don't need like 5 gold to make it good. You need like 1 gold to make it good because it has a separate way to get gold on it.
Hey, all those economy guys? There are 1-cost guys that you kneel for economy.
Yeah,
fuck them.
Exactly. You need 1 gold because you stick 1 gold on it, and you like even if it's just doing that for a turn or 2, that's reasonably valuable, right?
Yeah, I mean, but with 2 gold is ridiculous, right? Yeah. Shutting down people's entire 2 slot, the best claim soak.
I mean, utility. Night's Watch, you just do 3, and then you win the game, right? Like,
or 2.
Night's Watch? Yeah,
the Tricon's being shut down is ridiculous.
Or I mean, Aemon and Halder
I mean, the real question though is, do you rate it higher than the economy location? Because the economy location is also ridiculous.
I think the economy location is probably better, but the reason I don't like it is it says, "Hey Barra, until we give you more economy, you have to play dominance decks."
Yeah,
and that's fucking stupid. Like that should not be the only Barra build, and now it is. So like I hate that card now that I've thought about it for a little bit, because like why is Barra's only option dominance decks?
Yeah, especially when I feel like Barra's in a spot where it's just going to end up being like the old like Knights on Knights decks, where it's just like whoever gets the disadvantage just gets completely fucked out of it. Like the Martell Stag deck ran its own Iron Throne, like it's obviously also a dominance deck, so it's just going to run into other dominance decks and luck into some dumb coin flips. Like,
yeah, and that's what Edric, and it's just bullshitty.
Someday there'll be a real Neil House, I think, as long as it doesn't all have to funnel through Mel.
We just need the Castellan back.
Yeah,
we're not going to get the Castellan back.
The moment Barra Reigns becomes a good deck, you guys are all fucked. Like
Stannis, I don't think Barra Reigns is far off at all, and I think Stannis' Cavalry is a nasty good card.
Yeah,
like in a deck like that where you can just be like, all right, your intrigue icons in this house are about that, and now they just can't stand.
Yeah, Cat. I mean, putting four gold on and Cat can never stand.
You put on 4 against them, and then you put on like 5 against Lanny. Actually, against Lanny's, there's not really going to be a good cost.
It's tricky for Lanny. They have everyone has an injury kind of.
Lanny has too many. But
Tyrion not standing is pretty good. But it would probably be. It'd still be, I think, the 2 spot. I mean, well, maybe the 7.
No.
He put 7 gold. Gregor and Tywin can't stand.
Big Cersei, hell yeah.
Big Cersei, but she doesn't kneel for the intrigue challenge, right?
It's called baiting
all
the
you need is
valor.
1 kneel. You just need one kneel out of Barra.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, a lot of what Samson's Calorie does, too, is baiting the Valor, because once that shit gets set up, it's like, man, I need to reset this board now. Card is
but you know what card? You know, Samson's Calorie gets a lot better with Valor Dohaeris because
when they're just like
cost characters.
You just saved all your 5 costers. Well, here's my my Stannis with 5 gold on it. Good luck.
We have 2 Stannis Cavalry, 1 with 5, 1 with 2.
Oh right, yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
That card is going to be so good.
Yeah,
it's a John card.
Dark Marriage.
Yeah, it's a John card.
All right, that was actually a pretty painless pack discussion.
We should just do top 5s from now on. Can I ask one more question about one more card? The one that we didn't mention because I wanted to talk about Northern Castman and passing, and you guys obliged. I'm not sure how good Wheels is without Annals, because like we totally have a location that does this and no one plays it, right?
No, we definitely don't have a location that dumps the rest.
Don't.
Yeah, it's
okay. Without Annals, I see your point.
Annals,
like
without
Annals,
it's
basically
you don't have to pick any more events than the one that you want.
Sure,
right?
But without Annals, you're using a plot slot for Shadow Black.
Yeah, but Shadow Black has the limitation that has to be an in-faction event. So if you're a deck that's running Tears, or a deck that's running Puts, or a deck that's running, I don't know, a Mutiny, and it's not a Night Swatch deck, like it's a bit more flexible.
And your house card.
I mean,
it's also going to go in fucking Reigns decks, right? Because like Lanny Reigns, like the ability to win an intrigue check, took the top 10 cards, find one of your 3 copies of Tears, and then Tears someone is like fucking ridiculous and stupid, right?
Yes.
It shouldn't have been a scheme, but whatever.
I mean, whatever. It's the scheme that was promised. Like, this is the scheme that actually makes it worthwhile to be a scheme.
That's silly. I think that's not true at all. Reigns has been the best agenda in the game for
but it's the best agenda because of what? Filthy accusations and power behind the throne, and maybe Game of Thrones. Like, there's
filthy. No
one ever expects Game of Thrones. As I like
Game of Thrones is phenomenal. There's way more than that.
I always have a problem picking my 5th Reigns plot because only 4 of them are good.
Varys' Riddle.
Really?
That should be the case.
There's like Varys' Riddle, Filthy, the Stand
Red Wedding.
plot.
Yeah, Red Wedding.
Red Wedding.
Red Wedding.
The 5-11-2 is really good on Lannister.
Sneak attack is fine.
Why would you ever
Forgotten? plans is okay.
Because you can do your other challenges first and then flip into sneak attack, and it has no downside.
Pulling the strings out of Tyrell gets you like you basically have 2 counting copiers between your riddle and your pulling the strings. Like
3 if you just run counting coppers.
All right. Well, I'm bad at this game, but whatever. I still think this is a really good scheme plot. I think it's probably.
It is.
No,
you said it wasn't a good scheme plot. We just.
But I just don't think. I don't even know if it goes in every. Yeah. I don't know if it goes in every single.
I think it goes in Lanny Reigns, though.
It goes in just about everyone. I mean, look at that.
It's treachery, just on-demand treachery.
I don't know if you can fit it in the Tyrell.
I don't know. I think Tyrell rethinks itself, right? I think
Tyrell wants pulling, riddle, stand, kneel, and it probably wants wildfire as a safety valve. You might be able to cut
here's
that.
the thing, though. Aaron, like what we learned at one thing we did learn at Gen Con is that Tyrell Reigns gets rolled in the current North American meta. Like Tyrell Reigns did piss poor, which a lot of us were afraid of that deck, which is another reason why.
Also, I think it was underrepresented in numbers, though. So
it was, but like a lot of the people, like I know the Thompsons, for example, who are both excellent players, were like going into it gonna do Tyrell Reigns, and then they saw how bad Tyrell Reigns had of a matchup against both Modern Night's Watch and the Degenerate Stall that Alex brought, and so they went with the Degenerate Stall. Like, I think in the North American context, Tyrell Reigns needs to be rethought, and the ability to fetch things like Tears or the new Power event or the new whatever the fuck event that you want is going to be really powerful.
I also think that this card makes Targ Reigns a real thing.
Oh, to fetch Drac.
Yeah, I mean to fetch Drac, and like if you need to get a dragon out of that, but like you have options.
Oh yeah,
and and Targ is, I hear, gonna be good with Annals, right? Like so.
This would have won me my melee game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely probably would have.
You get, and then you chuck a dragon as no slave in the discard pile.
It makes Waking the Dragon stronger in Tyrell Reigns. The ability to get an extra on-demand stand.
Targ Reigns.
Yeah, Targ Reigns. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's gonna, like, if they have the intrigue strength, I think it's gonna be really good. And worst case, like Targ just shrugs because they're running fealty. Like they're running fealty for an extra gold, and they have plenty of gold, so they don't really need fealty. Like even if you only get 1 or 2 triggers a game.
Luke also points out that you get to dump your dragon as no slave into the discard pile with this, and then just come back.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good in any of the factions with the strong recursion ones, which is actually right now I don't think Targ. But if any of the other 2-cost events end up being strong, like it looks like the Stark one will be, the ability to do that. The Fetch a Winner is coming for Stark.
I really want Stark Reigns to be good.
I mean, I do too, but we'll see.
I'm interested. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk.
You can dump Olenis and get it back, like, well, I guess not right away.
It's going to be pretty obnoxious.
You would be past that.
Isn't there a new event? Didn't they spoil a new Tyrell event that does something obnoxious?
I mean, probably, but that's the box meta.
Yeah, you could dump the Tyrell one and get it back immediately, right?
Yes.
Sure.
You can. Which is super stupid. Yeah, you actually 100% can. So you can fetch your Tears and throw one of these events in your discard pile, then pay 1 gold to pull the 2-cost event out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2 power challenges.
Yeah, Tyrell Reigns, man. Tyrell Reigns is gonna put this card in there, but.
So I don't think Barra Range is going to be a thing anytime soon, because I think Barra Range has to be a Dom deck because that's the way their fucking economy works, and they need the economy. Like that's the whole reason I don't like that deck. Like I don't think Reigns and Dom are natural friends.
Even with Big Mel putting the pressure on their hand.
I mean, just anything that has to win a challenge by a large amount is not going to naturally going to be bad.
Like, I mean, Dom decks just don't really want big dudes, right? As a general rule.
Right.
You don't want to have to rely on them. No.
Yeah.
You can have a couple, but that can't be your whole thing. And right now they have to go big dudes because they don't have. I mean, they'll have the economy now, but
they have the cavalry.
Yeah.
Fuck your big dudes. We all play with small dudes.
I like Eerie. I mean, there's so many good cards in this deck, but Eerie doesn't give it enough credit for being just a great character in Targ decks and in any banner Targ deck you ever make. You're going to put her in there.
Yeah, absolutely. This deck, this entire pack is stupid.
So I think the biggest
everything
impact
but
that
Lannister gets one really good card.
I think the biggest impact that Erie's going to have is it's going to force people to pronounce the location properly as Erie, which is how it should be pronounced, so people don't get it confused with the character.
Erie and Erie.
Erie and Airy.
Erie and Erie.
Erie
Yeah.
and Erie.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin has said you can pronounce his characters and locations any way you want. So
But Buzz
I choose-
says Greyjoy Reigns is the best Jaime deck in the game.
I don't think
I think
Greyjoy Reigns
Degenerate
actually
Stall-
played.
Wait, well then why didn't it win Nordics then? Ask him that.
Why didn't it win, I don't know, Flea Bottom or Gen Con or...
It was at Nordics. I was rooting for it, but it did not win.
Night's Watch Reigns pretty consistently beats that. In the I don't know what the fuck it's doing in the new pack, but before the current pack, pretty consistently rolled Greyjoy Reigns, which I'm sorry.
I think Night's Watch Targ and
I think that true.
Night's Watch Targ and Lanny Reigns are really bad matchups for Greyjoy Reigns. It's a tier 1 deck, yes, but I don't think it beats 3 other major common tier 1 decks.
I mean, one of the things that was good and bad about the Gen Con meta is there were several tier 1 or tier 1.5 decks, right? Like there were, it wasn't just like Greyjoy Dragon and things that answer Greyjoy Dragon. Which are you going to bring? Not Greyjoy, excuse me, Lanny Dragon. It's not just bring Lanny Dragon or bring something that answers Lanny Dragon.
Well, Stark Fealty, right?
Right, Stark Fealty, Lanny Dragon, something that answers one of those 2 decks, right? It was, well, Greyjoy Reigns is really good, so you can bring something that does that, but that's vulnerable to the other, to Degenerate Stall, and Degenerate Stall is vulnerable to Greyjoy, and it's just like there's like 7 decks you could have brought, all of which were decent meta calls, which is good, I think, for the game.
I agree. I think that having not just rock paper scissors, but rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, or whatever the fuck, is actually good for the game. I think it's one of the few cases that I've seen in my tournament play where, like, it really is, there is not a top deck. I don't think there is a top deck. I think even Alex's deck is not necessarily the top deck.
I think Alex doesn't think Alex's deck is the top deck anymore. He said himself on the white book that it was kind of a left field deck, and if it's a known quantity in the meta, it's not a good call.
Yeah. Well, sadly, it is midnight East Coast time, and I have a whole bunch of meetings in the morning, so I have to call an end to this episode. We're going to end on that excellent insight from us, Sandy.
I have. I would like
one final point.
What are? I want to just 30 seconds. What do you guys think is going to win in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks? There's some tournaments coming up.
Stop trying to sandbag a deck for next weekend, Sandy.
God damn it.
All right. Sandbagging Sandy. That's going to be the title of the episode.
I want to know what to play.
As he writes it down to make sure he doesn't forget.
Sandbagging Sandy. All right. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Our next episode will be in 2 weeks. So that means it will be the week of September 11th. We're not sure what day of the week that will be. It will be. Yeah, I'll wish her hello for you, Aaron, in a minute. But so the week of September 11th, I have a couple of interesting ideas for what our next episode will be, but I'm not ready to announce them. But I will talk with my co-hosts about it. So I have some cool ideas. So good luck to our Californian friends and Sandy at the Siege. It's the Siege of Highgarden, right?
Siege of Highgarden, yes.
Siege of Highgarden, which is this upcoming weekend. Be sure, again, to check out Rob St. John's channel to watch Sandy and I end our friendship at a melee table, and also for some excellent Thrones 2.0 action. So, end of episode. Hard stop now, Buzz.